there is now a very focused activity of looking at some of the baseline labeling content that exists for this particular group of products. It might be however you focus it down, whether it be an indication or whether it be a active ingredient, it might be a pharmacological class, however you have narrowed the attention down from the very numerous type of labels that are out there down to a few labels. And now at this point, you'd like to evaluate labels. So by what I mean there is you want to actually look at the content and see what are the common threads, how the information is evaluated, how it is presented, what is the authoring technique to actually compose these actual labels that you might bring to the market. Now, obviously there's these 17 sections inside a label that need to be addressed using the PLR format, but how you actually go about doing that and looking at a precedent or a baseline is extremely valuable. In the same regard, you might want to see if there are some unique presentations, unique claims and so on from a particular manufacturer. So a particular product might have something unique that that catches your eye, and it might help shape your particular development. And so establishing the baseline, common authoring techniques, and finding out anything that is nuanced and noteworthy. This is all part of this evaluation process. Now, for those labels that are bringing a generic drug product to the marketplace, you obviously need to look at the reference listed drug, the RLD. So that particular label is extremely important. You need to basically duplicate that and put your obviously your NDC numbers in and your branding and so on. But you do need to focus in and finding the text, the metadata, dosage forms and that sort of thing, images, patient information, anything that's written about that reference listed drug. You need to pull that together and feed that into your labeling team so that they have a baseline and understand what they need to repeat in their particular label. So David, let's take a look at the FDA and again Navigator. So I think we have a pretty good idea of being able to do some evaluation on the FDA, but maybe you can touch on that and then expand a little bit more on the Tech Navigator for drug labels.
Sorry, Gary, I was on mute. I won't dive too deep because a lot of what we had explained in kind of the first scenario, it remains consistent with the tools that FDA makes available. Again, great resources. What we'll touch upon a lot here is then the ability to compare the labels is some of the main differences of what we'll find with Navigator, right? Again, how are we getting to this data? With the FDA tools or Navigator, we're using the search functionality in the application. With Navigator, we can hone in on additional details, expand our searches, save these searches for use and reuse later. But when we're trying to evaluate the differences, this is where, again, it's not just human prescription drugs, generics, it's not just, but also OTC side, right? These are very helpful. I mean, I do a lot of search on Navigator. I use it on a daily basis, and you'd be amazed. I mean, just one of the searches I created was COVID. Just put in COVID under even indications, right, and usage, and there were OTC products popping up under there, and it was kind of surprising, right, if you will. Now, if I had just put COVID in the general search without specifying what section of the label, there were a lot more, right? And so what I was finding is a lot of these OTC products may have been hand sanitizers that may have been adding into their drug facts that either this can kill the germs that cause COVID, or it can or it's being presented under the specific guidance of FDA for the pandemic, things like that, and then they list COVID. So again, some of those areas are things that in the OTC industry, you can really take a look at what other companies are doing in their labels in one centralized location, and then you can even compare it to your own. Now, in this specific scenario, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what we looked at before, where with the application, once I've performed my search, on the left side panel here, I can check off the plus button and add all of these specific labels that are of interest to my personal library within the application. Then what I'm able to do is either select the button at the top and it will choose all labels, or I can specifically select the unique labels that I'd like to view in a comparison. And then what I do is I click compare, and it brings me into a separate area of the dashboard that shows me, okay, here are the labels that you've selected for comparison. You can select and compare up to 25 labels side by side. And then we also have some additional kind of textual representation of that as well, where you could look at one label next to the other and see exactly what text and images have changed from one label to the next, or even one version of a product to the next version of a product. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But here I've selected all the labels to view side by side, and you'll see if I was live in the system, I'd be able to scroll down and show you this. That's what these arrows are representing here, is you can kind of scroll down to see the entire label. You can scroll in unison so that all labels are scrolling down at the same time, or you can turn that off so you can just kind of freehand and scroll through the different labels as needed. You can scroll to the right, and then this information can also be exported into a very user-friendly export to not just be able to scroll and share this information with colleagues or with a team, right? We hear a lot of our friends are getting together, and well, they may have been getting together in conference rooms. Now they're probably in virtual settings, but where we can all share this information, view it together, and even in that export, you can start annotating and updating information. So if your label's one of those that you're looking at, you're able to start live, making some of the changes or edits that you'd like. And this is what that export looks like right here within the application. So again, this is something that can be saved outside of Navigator for drug labels, but it's very helpful to be able to really hone in on what you're looking for. And then the other thing is it's always going to show you what version of this label are you looking at, right? So even if you're looking at the same product, right? If we were looking at Mylan's Bexarotene, and we could look at multiple side by side. So yeah, that's really, again, when we're evaluating not just our label, but other labels in industry, Navigator really helps with not just finding it, but also now reviewing and finding the key differences side by side.